Looked to come to undergrad. One was the University of Georgia. One was Penn State because I was required by birth to look at Penn State. And the other one was Kansas State University. And I came out here and got a very good reception, but it was a little far from home. Mama wasn't too sure that was going to be all right for her baby boy to go. So I went down south instead. But I'm glad to be here today and visit with you. Kind of as we get started today and people are filtering in, give you a real quick rundown. The research station that I work at in Idaho, we have about 350 cows, and so that's pretty small by Idaho standards for herd size. We operate at 4,000 feet up to 6,500 feet. Rainfall in our area is somewhere between 9 and 13 inches of moisture, depending on whose story you're listening to. We run a crossbred herd of Hereford Angus cross cows. Since 2008, we've used sex semen to try and generate a majority of those replacement females. That allows us to use more terminal bulls or do whatever they want. So we're a research herd, and so you heard Galen Fink talk about the challenges of being a research herd and try and maintain some sort of genetic consistency. And so, if somebody comes in and they've got money and they want to breed to Barzonas for a few years, that's all right. We can do that, but we don't have to have Barzona cross heifers in our herd. So that herd has been there since 2001. We're pretty new as things go. And I came there 10 years ago in 2008. And so what I want to visit with you today is about heifer development. And as I got thinking about this, I didn't realize I didn't have enough time to spend a lot of time with you today talking about all the things that we talk about with heifer development. But a lot of the folks that are here today are going to visit with you about components that you could utilize to create a heifer development system. And so when we talk about systems, when we see systems research, and we do systems research at University of Idaho, and obviously Rick Funson does great systems research. But remember, a system only works great in that particular system. When I got to Idaho, somebody said to me, we want to make this system, this research station, a model ranch. Well, the only model that ranch is for that particular ranch. So if you're operating out of Missouri and Fescue, you're going to have different needs than a guy operating out of western Kansas or us out in Idaho. So what I want you to concentrate on is some of the concepts that we visit with today and some of the concepts that you pick up, and then build your own system as the producers who did an excellent job with their presentations before lunch have told you about. So as we get into this, we've got this heifer. We want her to calve at 2 years of age. We want her to give us a calf every 365 days for 8 to 10 years. We want her to give us a calf that's big enough and healthy enough and quality enough in order that she'll help pay for herself. And then at the same time, we want to make her a cow as cheap as we can. So we've got all these different things that I mentioned that will be talked about today or have already been talked about today that we can put in our toolbox. And today I'm going to visit with you about nutritional management and some of the things that we can do from a nutritional side as developing that heifer. And we're going to focus primarily on energy, protein, nutrition. Dr. Arthington's going to talk to you about mineral nutrition. One of the things we need to do as we think about putting systems together is we need to think outside the box. So Dave Doctor's here somewhere. Dave Doctor's with Select Sires. And so Dave has always thought outside the box. And one of the tools we didn't talk to you about was biostimulation. So if we take a bull and we put him in with a bunch of heifers that haven't started cycling yet, and they're close enough to that physiological onset of puberty, we can induce puberty in those heifers by exposure to the bull. And Dave thought this would be a great idea. The problem with that is either you have to have a surgically altered bull, which is expensive, or you endanger your controlled breeding season. So Dave came up with an idea. What he did was he puts a strap or a chain around the heart girth of a bull. He attaches a mud flap to that strap, and then when that bull mounts that heifer, that mud flap gets in the way, and that heifer gets exposed to the bull without being inseminated. And so I said to Dave, I said, does that work pretty good? He goes, yeah, it really does. We induce some heifers to come into heat. Works great. I said, any limitations? He goes, yeah, you got to check your mud flaps every morning. So we'll think outside the box a little bit today. For the last 50 years, we've done a lot of research that looked at heifer development and heifers at different stages of life, even pre-weaning, a lot of work post-weaning, some work around the time of breeding, and then, of course, what happens to those heifers after breeding until the time they're getting ready to calve. And so that's what we're going to visit about today. Of course, recently we've also learned that what happens to that dam when she's pregnant with that heifer may have lifetime effects on that heifer. And Dr. Vanami is going to visit with you about that, I think, tomorrow on fetal programming. But I'm going to stick today to talk to you about this heifer development in these kind of 4 stages of life. Rick already addressed this a little bit, and some others have too, that remember, a pregnant heifer is not the same thing as an early pregnant heifer. When we look at these heifers and their lifetime productivity and where they stand, what we really need to focus on is those heifers calving in the first 21 days of the calving season. This is that work of Dr. Cushman's that you saw Rick allude to earlier. This was the Meat Animal Research Center cattle, and then these were cattle from a composite of commercial producers that they had worked with. And you can see that by about the 4th calving, about the time she has her 4th calf, we've lost half those heifers, even in the group that calved in the first 21 days, but we're down to only 30% of those heifers in the heifers that calved later than that. So we really need these heifers to breed very early in the breeding season. Pre-weaning is one of those places that we don't really think about a lot. So she's usually out there with her dam. She's grazing on whatever she's got to do, and